G'day, welcome back. I'd especially like to welcome my new subscribers, and I hope you enjoy the content on my channel. If you missed part 4 of the rotary table build, there's a link up there now. You can watch that first. Now on that subject, kind of want to apologise. This seems to be dragging on, but as I've mentioned in a couple of videos, I'm really pushing my two little machines to the absolute maximum extent, and it's been a little tough to machine some of this stuff up. It's been hard work. But anyway, now that I've made that base, and I've got to say it, I spent 5 days on that, probably 5.5 actually. So follow me back over to the mill, and we'll do something about attaching the base to the centre section over there. Alrighty, so I've sorted out the mating surface underneath between the centre section and the base so that it sits nice and flat, and I've marked at the bottom here to drill and tap it for M8, and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 bolts to go in there, but I'm not going to make you sit through the drilling and tapping of 12 bolt holes. If you're wondering what this is about, that's where the shaft for the worm drive's got to go, so I wanted to make sure I didn't whack a bolt in that area there. Anyway, so I'll get on with this. I'm going to have to do this the hard way. Someone mentioned a while back in after one of the videos, I think the turning ones when I was doing the big weights, that I was going to have to clean everything out in my DROs, and he's absolutely right, because they're all playing up now. I probably should have taken some time and cleaned them all up before I started doing this, but I really only need Z for this, and Z's sort of kind of going okay on this one, so hopefully it'll keep playing ball for me. Alrighty, so let's get on with this. Quick change colt chuck wouldn't go straight at the moment. Before it throws it at me. God, even drilling this cast iron sounds weird. Alright, now an 8mm drill. Beautiful. I don't know why they do it, but these damn things, that bit there is always just a little bit bigger than 8mm. I'm damned if I know why they do it. But anyway, so I'm not going to make you sit through any more of them. What's been an all-day job, that is, which took a bit longer than I thought, and I'm still not finished because these two damn screws are in the way of the tap handle, so I've still got 6 holes to tap. But I'll find someone I can fit in there and clamp it down in here so I can spin these freely. But anyway, so that's that, other than those 6 holes, and it's nearly beer o'clock, so I think I'm going to call it a day. I keep forgetting to tell you, you'll notice the light's not on because this bloody wire broke off. Bastard. Anyway, I'll pull that apart and fix it up. Anyway, so that's that done, sort of. A little something I forgot to mention, I've never had much to do with these DROs, especially these things. And I really, even though I had 5 things to do in Z, I really only had 2 that needed to know exactly where it was. And I was watching a video the other week, I don't remember who it was. He was doing something similar to what I just done here, where he had he had a hole over here and a hole over here. So what he was doing was using incremental and absolute. So on what I was doing here was going down. I'd set 1 in incremental and 1 in absolute with different zeros, which made life a whole lot easier. And the other thing I didn't mention, I didn't do all of these individually. Once I did that first one, I realised that I can just run backwards and forwards. So that's each, I did like 2 and 2 together, like that. I spent a lot of time watching this thing going backwards and forwards all the time. But anyway, so that was it. I just wanted to mention that absolute and incremental thing. Alrighty, so while you guys weren't looking, I finished tapping those 6 holes in the back, and I've mounted it up and machined this flat on the back, and I've got to do the same for the front. I did the back first just to see how it'd go. This bloody edge is really hard edge here. I think it's taken the edge off this carbide end mill, this Chinese carbide end mill, because it was starting to sing a bit when I was getting towards the bottom. And up here I was only taking 0.2mm cuts to get through this tough bit here. but all the way across you're still encountering it until you get below there. But anyway, it is no more Sunday, and to be honest with you, I'm feeling a bit tired and run down, so I think I'll have a day off and get back into this tomorrow morning, but it's all set up ready to rock. That was just a finish pass. Try and clean that face up a bit. I set the tool thickness of a piece of paper away from the back edge of this to allow for a finish pass. Oh Jesus, I might have gone a bit too far. Anyway, that's life. Alrighty, so next cab off the rank is to set up to mill a bit out of here for this worm to sit into. And looking at this, I've barely got enough flat left here to drill a hole through there for this shaft. There will be a piece to bolt on here to carry a bearing and everything, but it looks like it might have to come up here a bit more. So I really wanted that to be longer and wider than it was, but because of the DEM radius on this thing, my machine will down a lot more than I wanted to. But anyway, so this is not the shaft I'll be using, but close enough. So anyway, I've got to find the centre there and then figure out just where that sits. In there, and then mill a bit out so that can run in there, and then this will come across and I'll mill it flat in here, make a housing up to carry a little bearing I've got here somewhere. It's a cage needle roller. I'm going to fit in this end up here. But anyway, so that's the next cab off the rank. Alrighty, so I've worked out a couple of things in. So I've just made a test cut across there to see how we go. I've got that little 8mm roughing cutter of mine in there because this stuff here is pretty hard. So anyway, we'll see how we go. Alrighty, I've got to go down in here 14.5mm, but I don't want to touch this with it, but I want to break through this hard crust over here before I start milling this way. So I'll keep at it and I'll bring you back. Well viewers, that's not something I was expecting to happen. I never measured how much thickness I had in this. But anyway, I've broken through it over there on the inside. I don't think it matters too much, but I went through that. But this bit sits down in there. It has to sit half a millimetre or so below that level there to make sure it clears the plate on the top. I'm having reach problems again. Can't get far enough over this way, so I'm going to have to flip this around and have a go at it from the other side, because I need to mill this out some more, because this I wish I had a shorter piece of this. I think I've got a piece somewhere, I'll just have to find it. That'll sit down in that. I've got to mill that slot out deep enough to get the whole thing low enough. Anyway, we're getting there. So I'm going to mill this one here out some more. I need to go down there to about, that's 14.5mm from the top, because that worm, whatever I just did with it, it's 13mm round, so I want some clearance all around it. And that's an 8mm shaft on the inside of it, so my mathematics is right. If I'm allowing half a mil there, that's 13, or is it 14? That's, hey, what? Oh no, sorry. Close enough. It's 13.5, that's right, that's why I went to 14.5. So it's 13.5. I'm 14.5 from there, so that's a half mil clearance top, half mil clearance underneath. So So what's that, 14.5 is 7.25 plus another 4 is 11.25. So about 11.5 down to there from here to clearance in the bottom of that. So I'll keep going with that, and then and the other side. Hopefully that'll leave me enough thickness over here to bolt something in. And then I'll have to flip it around and finish milling this across to this side. But we're getting there. Alrighty, quick progress update. Found that little short shaft, and 11.5mm proved to be a little on the deep side, but it doesn't matter. It's got clearance in there. Underneath it, it'll have clearance over the top. This is that little bearing that I said I was going to use. Some needle roller, and to accommodate that, this is what I've come up with. I had to sit down and think about it a bit. So I'm going to have to machine a pocket in here, about 16mm square, thereabouts, because this is, well, actually it won't be 16 square, it'll be 16 wide, 12 deep, so a bit rectangular, to accommodate this, because it's 12mm in diameter and 12mm wide. And then I'll put 2 little ears on here to be able to bolt it down, and I'll just machine a bit of a flat across here. Now the only dimension I don't have on this at the moment is the thickness of these ears, because I haven't quite worked that out, and I don't really know what it'll be until I machine a bit of a flat in here. But anyway, it's shopping day, so I have to take Sheila must be about shopping and pick up our damn washing machine that I took up the road to get fixed yesterday. They want to come back, we'll get in and we'll machine this pocket and the top here, and then finish working out what I need to do with that bracket. Alrighty, so I finished that pocket off, spun this around, time to finish milling that across the other side. Alrighty, what I'm contemplating doing is machining a little flat across here, so that hopefully I can make up a little round disc, a brass probably, that I can clamp onto the shaft, so that will be where I adjust it, to make sure I have no end float just here. It's lunchtime, I'm going to go have some lunch. Alrighty, so I'll get just a normal 8mm end mill in there and clean that back up. Alrighty, that should do the trick. Nice clean surface to run the disc on. It's pretty stuffed, this worn out, that whole it's not high speed steel. Well, that's pretty much all the machining done in here now. So next cab off the rank will be, I think, to make up this little housing for here. Alrighty, to get on with this, I'm going to have to take some measurements, and I spent a lot of time thinking about it last night, about how I can manage it. I decided in the end that the best way to go about it would be to set up the dial gauge in here, and then use the Z-axis DRO to actually measure this. So I'm going to zero it in the bottom of that hole, and then come up. I'll zero the Z-axis, come across to here, bring that back down to a 0 again. Righto, and that's exactly 10mm. Bring it up again, just about right at the top of my travel here too. Bring it back it down to zeros. That's 16.8. Right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to have to go and trim a piece off the end of this, and so it'll fit right down into that slot. Just nick a bit off the end of it. And then I'm going to put one of my heavier parallels across the top, because all these surfaces line up, and put a heavy weight on it. Push this up, put a 1/2 millimetre spacer in between the parallel and that, and get something to push it over, hold it in place. Then take some readings off the top of the rail, of the bar, this rod, and the top of the bearing on the end of it. So I'll get all that set up and we'll have a look at that. Alrighty, so I've got the other half of this set of parallels laying in here. This is the piece of steel that was attached to the base originally. I've put a half millimetre feeler gauge in over the top of the worm. I'm going to pull it up against the bottom of the parallel just by pulling on this. I'll run this across here to the top of that shaft and lower it down. Bring it back up. It's close enough. 14.95. Alrighty, so that should tell me what I need to make that little bearing holder in the back, and it will also tell me what I need to mark this up to drill a hole through there for this shaft. Alrighty, so while you weren't looking, I had to dig through my aluminium box. Found this little piece. It was a fair bit bigger and a fair bit thicker, but I put it through the mill and got it down to size. Don't own a 12mm reamer, otherwise I'd have drilled it in the mill. So I'm going to have to drill it and bore it in here. So anyway, I'll get on with it. I cannot believe, I'm never going to machine cast iron again. Everything here is going rusty. Have a go at this. All these tools sitting up here are all going rusty, like they've never gone rusty before. It is a wet season, but it's only barely started. It's not exactly pouring with rain every day at the moment. Every damn thing's so rusty. Alrighty, it should be a good press fit into there. That out of there and back in the mill. Well, it's pretty much that. I think I might just get the chamfer these two corners off here and that'll be done. Alrighty, so I'm nearly all the way up there. I haven't got a lot of room left above that, so I don't have room to put a drill in there, I don't think. So what I'm going to do is use a centre drill. That happens to be 8mm, and get that down until it's started an 8mm hole, and then I'm going to use that little 8mm roughing cutter to punch a hole through there, hoping it's in the right spot. Alright, so the $1 million question is, how well does it line up? Oh, look at that. Beautiful. Like a board one, only much more better. So what all we've got left to do now is to make the housing to go on here, some bearings on it, a hand wheel and my little a micrometer ring. But I reckon that's about all we've got time for this week. So that's where I'm going to end it. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, make sure you give it a great big thumbs up, and I'll see you next week. Bye bye.